What's up guys, Shay Stevens here, PDGA number 77522, and today I'm finally back out of the fields. They're dry and it's not freezing, to do a follow-up to my video on how to build a forehand. So if you haven't watched that first one yet, check it out, I'll put it up there. So I had a bunch of people reach out to me saying, hey, I started with putters, went great, went to mid-ranges, even better, got to drivers and there were some problems. So today I want to take a look at some of the problems they were having and see if I can address them in this video.
All right, guys, and right after that, the wind picked up and just shredded my audio, so there was no way to really hear me out there. So rest of the class is back indoors. So the first thing I want to talk about is your hand placement, your wrist angle, really, for how to throw a sidearm. So I see a lot of people throw almost like a waiter holding a tray with their palm facing straight up into the air. And this is fine for, again, shorter shots, touch shots, but this really limits your range of motion. You have, maybe 90 degrees of movement. So when you are trying to get, this up to speed with more spin, you actually want to go with your hands sideways like this. This gives you like 180 degrees of motion. So you can really whip into that disc and give it more power. Now, the reason people throw palm up is because you hear the old adage, palm to the sky. And this is true. You want to finish with your hand up. You don't want to roll your wrist. Coming sideways like this, it is very natural to want to roll your wrist over, and that just creates off-axis torque and kills your distance and your accuracy. So you do want to make sure that you are following through cleanly. The way I was taught this was to throw your forehand, reach out, and then come around with your follow through and pat yourself on the shoulder. If you don't roll your wrist, you can do that. If you rolled your wrist and come over to pat yourself on the shoulder, it gets pretty awkward. The other way I learned how to keep my hand flush sideways on the throw is to pretend you have like a 5-year-old in front of you just mouthing off. And this kid is imaginary. We don't condone violence against children, but in imagination land, smack the kid. Just full on come across the face, and that will keep your hand flat. So that's how I learned to keep a hand sideways and follow through cleanly, and that will help you gain a lot more spin and a lot more power on the throw. So the next thing I want to talk about is your grip when you're throwing these power, your fairway drivers or your distance drivers that need more speed. You might need to change your grip. On a backhand, when I'm throwing putters and mids, I actually throw with a full fan grip for backhands. Feels very comfortable. I feel like I have control. I have really good strength on it. This disc ain't going anywhere. However, if I were to take a driver and try to throw that fan grip, I can't hold it. So what happens if I try to throw fan grip fairways for a bit, and I was early releasing so much, I wasn't getting that much spin on the disc. So for fairways and above, I need to throw a power grip on my backhand. This might translate to forehand as well for you. So what you find is a lot of people are comfortable throwing either a split grip or a stacked grip. Remember, you want to have your hand sideways. You want your fingers, the pads of your fingers, pushing into the rim of the disc. You don't want to have them facing up. You don't want to have them facing up into the flight plate. You can get away with it for touch up shots and stuff, but it really limits your range of motion. I think you get more consistent releases if you do allow for the natural full range of your motion of your wrist. So you want to have those pads of your fingers into the rim. For putters and mids, I can throw a split or stacked. Kind of depends on the shot, what I'm doing with it, and I feel really good. I have a lot of control over this. I'm not losing my grip on it. But if I go to drivers and I try to throw that same stack grip, I'm gonna hit myself in the face. Yeah, I have no power. So this is why I really wanted to make this video. So many people were saying the minute they tried fairway drivers, it felt like the disc was ripping out of their hand early and it was kind of flopping off to the side. So you might need to change your grip. For me, what I do is I kind of take that split grip and just take your index finger, boop, right down onto the rim on the rim. And this feels very strong. What this does is it creates actually a good anchor point between my index finger and my thumb. So I have the middle finger out here kind of ripping on the edge to just create some more spin. Nate Sexton, I think, bends both of his fingers, but still, that gives you some extra leverage and extra power, and this ain't going anywhere. So definitely check your grip, play around with it. You want to make sure it feels very strong so you can hold on to this disc, so that way when you're adding all that speed, all that spin, you don't lose your grip. Okay, guys, the last thing I want to talk about is timing. There are two pieces of timing I think that a lot of players struggle with, myself included, and that is with your lower body and with your wrist engagement. So for the lower body, try to cut away here. What I do is I see a lot of players try to like step and throw it in one motion, and that just creates such a very, very small margin of error to get all your parts timed and going. I think it's more beneficial actually to almost like a backhand, how you step and leave your your lead foot touches toe first, and then you drop your heel and go into the shot and shift your weight. Forehand, same deal, but because of the nature of the throw, heel hits first, drop in, shift your hips, feel that weight transfer off your back leg to your front leg, and that'll help really ground your shot and power it. Now, for the upper body, the problem I see is lazy wrists, honestly. For backhand, we're spoiled. Just naturally by our physiology, you keep your wrist nice and passive, nice and level, and no matter how fast you throw, at the very end, your wrist is going to pop open just because it's the end of the whip and that's the only hinge left to go. And it does it for you on its own pretty much. You don't really have to mess with it. Forehand is an active wrist throw. You have to actively throw it and bend your wrist. So I see a lot of people just kind of like almost passive, just straight up and just go straight back, straight through. And this is usually what results in those like duck, it just wobbles because it has not enough spin on it and it goes off to the left, or because the disc, again, is kind of exposed more out here earlier, you get drag on the disc, and this might result in an early release too. So you want to make sure you cock that wrist back. You feel that drag that we talked about in the first video. You should still feel it at all stages, of the touch forehand up to your big distance forehand shot. If at any point in that chain you aren't feeling that drag, you're not using your wrist, and that's where the power is coming from mostly. So you want to feel that drag through all the way to the end. Think of it like your arm is, again, like a whip. At the very end, crack the whip, let the wrist go. What I see again is a lot of players kind of they swing their wrist all the way through the shot, and this usually results in, even if you do get a decent release, you're probably shooting your disc off to 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock. If you're right-hand forehand, you're missing to the left, because by the time you get to when you get to the front, you're already getting ready to whip the disc, and it's going off to the left on you. So you want to make sure you're coming through nice and straight, and at the very end is when you crack it, and that should have the forehand going straight at the target you're aiming at, which is one of the things I struggle with the most. I'm getting better at it now, but that'll help you keep your shot online, which is it's going to be pretty critical to your game. Okay, guys, these have been my 3 tips to help you graduate from putters and mids to your drivers when throwing forehand. I hope they help. Again, mess around with your grip. Your hand is different from my hand. Your discs are different from my discs. So find out what works for you, gives you that confident grip. Make sure you have good timing, and again, make sure you are using the wrist to its fullest potential. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I'll do my best to answer them. And as always, take care.
Thank you for watching part 2 of my guide to forehands. I hope it helps. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this and other disc golf content. Lastly, thank you to my sponsor. For all your disc golf needs, check out Basket Bashers Disc Golf. Links are in the description below.